Coming from a married couple who investigates all things supernatural, most people forget one side of investigating, the everyday human side. Before investigating, they had to learn everything that's involved with cases, all the while balancing their marriage, family life, friendships, and work life. Twisted Ascensions brings an inside look at how their marriage works on and off cases, spreading the knowledge they've learned over the years about trauma, drug abuse, dealing with spiritual gifts, protection work, and so much more. Dive into the world of a paranormal couple that doesn't shy away from hard questions, but rather offers raw and unfiltered answers. Listen to the good, bad, and ugly stories of various topics and hear from other investigators, past clients, and colleagues within the field. Now, your host of Twisted Ascensions, Caden and Allisa Mask.
Hi guys.
Welcome to the Murder Folks.
I am your. Oh, go ahead.
I was making sure. There we go. Okay.
I
Welcome to the Murder Folks.
bombed our introduction.
It's okay.
It's okay.
You know what? We don't even do a normal introduction anymore. But as you know, if you're new here, my name is Caden. This is my wife,
Allisa.
And we are Twisted Ascensions, which is our podcast. We also own a supernatural team called Southern Ascension. We are based out of the hollers of Mississippi. And tonight, we have so much in store for you. So much in store. So the basis of our show has always been kind of bringing the truth to the paranormal, the side that most people don't like to talk about. It's always fun to hear about haunted locations and investigations and ghost stories and whatnot. But you know, when it comes down to it, we're all humans and we go through this life with all of our struggles. And tonight's guest is the man himself, the boss man, Todd Bates. And we're going to be bringing him on. And let me tell you, his resume is impressive, beyond impressive. Like so much to where I couldn't even type it all out because I'd still be sitting here Friday night trying to type it out. But the man is the legend himself. He is a legend. He has built this brand that we are on. He has built so much more. I also have his book, which we're going to talk about tonight, The Haunted Voice. It's a fantastic read. He's going to tell you exactly where to go to buy your copy. And I'm telling you, you will not at all, underneath any circumstances, regret buying this book. So tonight, we're bringing on the boss man. We're going to talk about his book. We're going to talk about addiction, some of the things that go on with it, because you know what? That's what happens in the paranormal field. You're going to come across people who are, you're going to come across people who are addicts. You're going to come across clients who may be going through those things. And you need to know, you need to be prepared on what you're walking into and some things that you can do to help. So let's bring him on in without further ado, Mr. Todd Bates, the boss man.
How you two? How are you doing?
Hey, I'm
good.
So stoked about tonight's show.
Oh my goodness, I've been waiting for this.
I know.
Since you told me.
It has been a hot minute since we were on the same screen with you. Holy cow.
Yeah, and not after the show.
Yeah, no, not because we were trying to make sure we kept us on YouTube or nothing. It was just because, you know,
it's been a while. Everything's been crazy.
It has.
Well, are you ready to jump right in? Because man, do we have a lot to cover.
Let's do it. I got a book here ready to give away the whole 9 yards. We'll
we're doing a book giveaway tonight too.
Yeah,
Holy cow.
Yeah.
Listen.
Limited glossy.
Ooh, fancy. And I bet it's signed, isn't it?
Yeah, it'll be signed.
Oh, yeah. See, everyone that's listening, you better stay in here. Stay in here and ask them questions. You don't want to miss getting that book. So, Mr. Todd, boss man, go on and tell everybody about yourself, a little bit about you. What got you into the paranormal field?
Well, believe it or not, everybody, I'm a shy introvert. Believe it or not, and it's been a love for me. Broadcasting, law enforcement. I was a corrections officer for several years. That career got a little tainted which we'll get into.
Yeah.
But what got me into this in general, the just the whole formation of it all. I had tried stations in the past, and they were very successful. I just didn't feel a connection with them, like a family type connection. This one, I feel a family type connection. The one I had prior, the host would come in to the studio, and it was nice. I learned quite a bit, but this one's remote. Now,
Yeah.
the whole remoteness of it all started way back when I first got into broadcasting after my corrections career plummeted. I started getting into the paranormal because I was skeptic prior to all this. I mean, I didn't believe in any of this stuff. And there was a ghost tour that I was poked and prodded to go to, so I went and actually captured some evidence, some pretty compelling evidence that kind of threw me forward. So that's what got me started was an EVP capture of a horse, of all things, that simple and
Wow.
and I just reached out to as many people as I could, because back then we didn't have Facebook. There wasn't all these social media accounts. We had email and chat rooms, forums, those forums. Some of them are still around. But we would meet and greet on those, I would talk to these people about EVP. Not that many people knew about it.
Yeah.
That's when I found Sarah Wilson Estep, just an amazing Sarah Estep, just a beautiful, beautiful person she was. She passed back in 2008, but she's the founder of the American Association of Electronic Voice Phenomenon, and she just took me under her wing and just, okay, this could happen, this could happen, this could happen because they do this.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she would know. She talked to them every morning, and she taught me how to be more consistent than what I learned in corrections, to be a little bit more precise, a little bit more, with the questioning and so forth, and patience, the patience of it all. So I learned all this from her, and a lot of this was through email, over the phone, and that's what launched me into the spiral of the obsession of electronic voice phenomenon.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there really is an art to EVPs, and a lot of people, even when we got into the field, I mean, we just thought you went into a building
with a recorder,
and then you just listen back just as you're listening to a song. No, there's much more that goes into it. I mean, there are certain tone differences that you're looking for. There's certain things. I mean, it's awesome when you get a Class A EVP and it's just that clear.
Sure.
But most of the time, at least in our experience, you're going to get more of a B or a C more often than you are an A. So, yeah, no, that's awesome that you had really, because I've heard of her. I mean, she's the best of the best.
Yeah.
And you got to learn from the best of the best.
She was a sweetheart. Between her and Jason Snyder, he's with the local team here still, and we go out sometimes, every once in a while, but he's been doing this since the 90s. My goodness, and to have, because he's all about science. Sarah was more open-minded.
Yeah,
he's all about science. So I kind of got the best of both worlds, went into the field, and I was on Jason's team at the time, and I'd heard of some of these paranormal shows, these paranormal podcasts that were on there. There was 2 of them at the time. 2. That's just 2. 1, 2. not the 2 million that you see today.
Right.
But one of them was Alabama Paraspiritual Radio, and it was run by Jimmy Lowry out of Alabama. And he had invited me on the show to be a guest, talked about it. We talked about EVP and things. And then that developed into a really good friendship between Jimmy and I, and a co-host spot on his show. And it was all done. I would connect over the phone.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I was in heaven. this was the greatest thing. And I was having so much fun doing it. And I wanted to do more.
Yeah.
It kind of became addictive. I have an addictive personality. I'm going to get addicted to these things. But as long as it's safe, it's okay-ish.
Yeah. You got to be careful of the hyperfixations. You do have to be careful with those.
Yes, sir.
Man.
But there's a lot that went into Jimmy and I. He taught me a lot about give and take in a show on how the give and take is back and forth. There's no upstaging and so forth. And he taught me a lot of things when it came to that. I wanted to learn more, but at the time I didn't have the means to do it, to educate myself. So I just kind of kept going and then formed my own show called Haunted Voices back in 2004.
Wow.
And talked to so many people about electronic voice phenomenon. That's how it all started. Started in a chat room, then formed into a show. And we connected. I remember connecting with these old podcast networks. They were over in the UK called Pioneer. They were out of the UK. They weren't even over here.
Yeah.
So it was really cool back then to connect using dial up sometimes.
Yeah.
It happens. and you get a
dial-up. We're from the age of dial-up.
Yeah, we're from that age.
Okay, I didn't know if you guys knew what that was. I'm
yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Okay, good.
I can still hear my
remember-
mom yelling at me, "Get off the internet so I can make a phone call."
I
Trying to
remember
make a phone call. Absolutely.
when they told us the internet was a possibility where we actually lived, and my dad was like, well, we're not getting it.
Yep.
Like,
I think, let's see, I'm 33, but in our side of Mississippi, we got internet probably 2 years after it became available to the public in our area.
Wow.
And I was in the 7th or 8th grade when that happened. So it came out in my 5th or 6th grade. We finally got our internet became public in our area, but it was dial up. You had to, click to connect, and then 30 minutes later, you were finally able to get on there. You were definitely having to wait, and I can still hear the tones and everything. But yes, that was the one thing I always remembered is you could not be on the internet if they were waiting on a phone call or if they needed to make a phone call. You had to disconnect, wait till they were done, and then connect for another 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the beauty of it.
So you were doing Haunted Voices with dial-up, right?
What's that?
You were doing. Can you not hear it?
Well, you have candy in your mouth.
Oh,
She was asking.
I was trying not to cough.
That's quite all right.
It's okay. It's Halls is what she's eating.
Oh,
she was asking. So when you started podcasting, like officially on your own or broadcasting, you had dial-up internet.
Oh yeah, it was terrible.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, it was awful. It wasn't even a broadband connection. Then we moved to satellite. It was a lot of it was when I first started. It was on the old, which the network still exists to this day. BBC Radio Network is that's where Haunted Voices launched, and it was all connected through the phone back then. Everything was done over the phone, and they had computers and so forth, software that would make it sound better. So it's cool how technology and the paranormal have kind of gone hand in hand here as well over the years, but
it really has.
The technology has just skyrocketed, and that's what launched me into it even more was the equipment back then. I couldn't get enough. I mean, I had to have everything. If it was paranormal related in any way, I would try and purchase it. The old RR-DR60 recorders, all the fun stuff I could find, and it became.
Let's talk about that for a second because that's interesting. Is what equipment was available when you first started all this? Because I know now we have pair lights and K2s and 1,000 EMFs and whatnot. But I mean, what were kind of the hot picks for when you started out?
Was the 1 megapixel Vivitar camera.
Oh gosh.
The analog, of course, tape recorder,
Uh-huh.
the RCA model digital recorder. This thing, it was metal. It had a metal case around it. That's how when those first came out.
You should have
And
held on to that if you
I know I
had
had two
one.
of them.
God, do you
I
see how
had
much
two of those.
those things are going for right now, dude?
Yeah, I had two of those because they're great. You know, to get out there in the field and experiment with this different type of equipment's a good thing. But know what it is you have, know how to use it. Don't just willy nilly the poor thing. It's not going to get you any results.
Yeah.
And take your time, invest in it, but don't invest yourself in it. You know, use your senses, use common sense, is in my opinion. I mean, I try to use that the best I could. But I mean, you guys know how it is out there. The adrenaline kicks in. You don't know what the hell you're doing sometimes. Things just happen.
Yeah. You're just excited to be involved. So
Mhm.
you're doing anything and everything.
I mean, you've got shadows going on one side, you've got apparitions going on another. There's just all kinds of different. It's a wicked world, and it's an addictive world. It can really snowball into many, many different things if you're not careful. Absolutely.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I mean, it's even like, I mean, when you started investigating, that was like 2004, 2005 or earlier.
Yeah, 2003.
2003.
I'd say. Yeah.
So even just now, that here we are 20 years later, and the leaps and bounds, both electronically and equipment wise, still astounds me.
It's unbelievable.
It still astounds me. Because now we went to, when the paranormal field originally started, it was spiritual based. You know, you did the seances, cards, and stuff that touch me, feel me, you know, Ouija board stuff. And now we've kind of transitioned. To me, it feels slowly, but in all actuality, it's not. I mean, we very quickly changed from spiritual based paranormal to now we're all scientific and electronical. You know, there's not many teams or individuals out there that still investigate with just their mind, body, and soul, you know, solely like that. So it's insane.
Believe it or not, there are people who I have heard or seen act shocked when somebody talks about just a basic, generic, bland compass being part of their equipment. And people are like, for what? Do you not have a cell phone? Do you not have GPS? And I'm like, did they not teach you in high school how a compass works?
They don't get it.
You don't know how the needle moves. Okay, that's fine. Okay. But I was taking that to say, like, I think a lot of the reason that the field is predominantly electronic, it's easier. And some of that is a generational thing. Like, I hate to say that, but it's the truth. It's easier. The more gadgets and gadgets you have to do the work for you. And I'm a firm believer in working smarter and not harder when it comes to like wearing your body down.
Oh, yeah.
But there are some things that can't fully be experienced if you just kind of find an easy way to do it.
You're right.
Does that make sense?
It
because
makes
if you're
total sense.
Focused, in my opinion, if you're so focused on a gadget that you have in your hand, you can't convince me that you are actually being like, you're paying attention to your breathing pattern and how you are feeling and how
you're not using
the person,
your
right? Because you're so, and I'm not against equipment. We have it. I love some of our equipment, but when you're saying that it's, you know, predominantly because like people aren't basing it off of anything but that.
We lost the only piece of equipment that is free to any and all of us, and that is our minds.
Right. And it's the most important one.
Common sense will be on the stock market here before you know it. I mean, it's crazy. It's nuts. And, you know, the equipment aspect of it, I've changed a lot since then. over the years, I relied on equipment because
Mm-hmm.
of my closed-mindedness, we'll call it,
Yeah.
to the spiritual world.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I wanted scientific answers. When I ask you a question, I want a specific answer.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't
Yep.
work that way.
Mm-mm.
You know,
Works.
you
You're
talk.
on their time.
Yes. And, you know, I mean, and it gets into respect and things as well. You know, you guys know the old saying, you get more with sugar than you do with vinegar.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that applies in the field.
Yeah.
And the equipment, I mean, I've turned more spiritual now than
Yeah.
anything. I mean, I'm using dowsing rods now.
Yeah.
I'm still use my analog. I'm always going to use
Yeah.
my analog recorder. That's my buddy.
Yeah.
But I found that by using those, like you were talking about, Allisa, you can still connect with yourself. And like you were
Mm-hmm.
talking about too, Caden, you
Mhm.
can connect with yourself.
Yeah.
Yep.
And by using little pieces of equipment that way, because when I left and came back, it just the field exploded. I can't keep
Yeah.
up with the latest equipment that's out there,
Yeah.
with especially in the ITC world of it
Mhm.
all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, it's crazy.
I give a lot of credit to the teams and individual out there, you know, like let's take Jay Prather, you know, somebody who builds equipment. I got to give them credit where credit is due because I'm by no means scientifically minded. I did not do well in science in school, nor did I go to college to be a scientist or a theoretical scientist, you know, whatever, quantum physics, any of it, engineering. Didn't go to school.
Barely
for it.
made it through math. We did good.
I was good to get out of math with a D. I mean, I was doing that.
You and me both. Oh man.
But when it comes to metaphysical or pseudosciences, it clicks with me more because I'm the type of individual, if I can't feel it or see it, taste it, if I can't use my senses to relate to it, it doesn't make sense to me. And it's not to say that teams who are scientific or the teams who do are solely using equipment are bad. It's just saying it's not my forte, you know, or it's not your forte and it's not your forte. We mix just like you did, you know, we still use some of our equipment. But for the most part, we rely mostly on the spiritual side of things because when the power grid goes down, which ultimately it's going to,
Right.
when there are no more batteries that you can go buy, when there's no way for you to charge your equipment, then what are you going to do?
You're
gonna
gonna
have-
need.
You're
You're
going to
gonna
have
need
to
to
revert
know.
back to the old ways, which was using common sense.
Yeah, and with all these recent outages, we've been having them all day long, all week long, actually. Who knows when that could happen too? I mean, you know, you're doing an investigation. The like you said, the power grid shuts
Yep.
down,
Yep.
and what are you going to do without common sense? What now?
Yeah.
You know, are you just going to sit there in the dark, cross your legs, and start crying, or are you going to get out some equipment or use your senses?
Right.
You know.
Well, see, my reasoning, like I found it. I've tried it both ways, and even if I was just if I was Caden, for me, the experience that I have is so much more important to me than like a picture of a piece of evidence. There has been a lot of things that's happened that I wish so badly we would have caught, but I'm not sorry that we were paying attention when we seen it. Like I am not. I hate that we didn't catch it on nothing, but it was a wild ride experience in it. So I don't regret it. It was still great.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, we've had several experiences in our daily lives as a married couple without we didn't even have our phones to record what was happening. And you're like, well, that would never happen if I had a camera in my hand. It just wouldn't have. But I don't regret them because the experiences are just once in a lifetime. And once you get it and you get that one time, and if you get it and you share it with the right person at the right time inside this field,
Yes.
that's it. You're hooked. It's over for you right then and there.
Yeah.
And if you start, and this is just my opinion, I think if you start out in this field as someone who hit it with nothing but the scientific side of it, it's harder for you to grasp the concept of having a personal experience and actually getting to do it. It's harder for you to turn off. I think it's harder for someone who is solely scientific to turn that off than it is for someone who is solely spiritual to be like, sure, I'll give you a try. Like, if that's what you want to try, sure. Like,
I agree with that.
Like, I think it's more difficult for someone who is
I agree with that.
very structured and scientific to give up their comfort there.
I agree with that. So let's because we got just a short amount of time before we have to go to break, our first break. But we're talking about your broadcasting and how you literally just dove straight into it. You fell in love with it and you dove into it. But there's one thing that I learned from you by talking to you that I didn't even know existed. And that tells you how sheltered I am when it comes to advanced knowledge or furthering your education. Broadcasting school. You went to broadcasting school.
Mm-hmm. I did. I had a good time. I had a good time with that. I wanted to further develop everything and kind of learn how to use something that was given to me, something that I enjoyed doing, learn how to properly put together certain tracks and certain sounds and make different effects and, sound like a used car salesman every once in a while, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I got all that, and it was so much fun, I mean, it's running the college station, doing the classic rock. I mean, I had a blast. I mean, here I am. I'm 45 plus years old in there just jamming out to this stuff. I had a great time with it.
Yeah.
And I had a fun time with my instructors, and they taught me discipline, how to pace myself, so many things that I've forgotten really and gotten lax on, like we all do.
Right.
When you get busy with other things. But that's what blew it up. That's what did it was going through broadcasting school taught me a lot of information, just how radio works in general, because I've always wondered how does it work? How does it get from one place to another? Why can't we see it? There's so many, and I learned all of that and then some. So that's to me, that was a gift from above right there.
Broadcasting school sounds awesome.
Yeah, it was so much fun. I recommend it to anybody. They even do them remotely now.
Really?
Yep, you can do them online.
You can do anything online these days.
Yep.
I'm convinced you could do anything online.
I mean, if you search long enough, you can find
I'm just saying,
a fake paranormal college to get you.
That was unnecessary pettiness, sir. Right. I mean, it was the truth.
There is, though. I'm just stating.
It was the truth.
Stating out there. Now, I have seen one in person. I thought it was a joke, and it wasn't.
He really did. And then he felt horrible because the person that was showing him was very
I thought
serious.
that they were just being funny. Like, look what I paid for. And it was a so-and-so completed ghost hunting college with, and I don't know, it was so many hours.
Ghost hunting academy.
Ghost hunting academy.
With this many hours of something. And he thought it was a joke.
I did think it was a joke. And I was like, that is the greatest
Todd,
thing
they
ever.
were serious.
I was like, I said, can I make a copy of this so I can make one to hang it up?
There's got to be limits and boundaries out there.
That's what I told him. I was like, you couldn't hold it in till we left. You could not hold it in till we got in the vehicle. And he was like, Allisa, I really thought they were playing. And I was like, you couldn't tell by the sheer terror on their face with your reaction that they weren't playing. He was like, I really thought they were just trying to add an extra.
I salvaged it though pretty well, because at the end of the day, there was no harm, no foul. They understood. So, it turned out to be okay.
Yeah, that's what matters.
Well, that's because you're a good person, and you were like, "Look, I'm so sorry, but I need you to understand that I really thought that this was
I really thought that yours was a joke. I've had my other friends; they have printed off something similar, and I really thought it was that.
It's
I'm so sorry.
The cop stripper that's not a stripper. It's like that type thing, like a Days of Thunder moment. Cade had
Days
that
of
with
Thunder moment.
Caden had his Days of Thunder moment with a ghost hunting certificate for any. If you know, you know. If you don't know, I don't know what to tell your parents.
We are going to take our first break. Everybody who is watching, thank you so very much. We are hanging with the boss man himself, Todd Bates, owner, founder, producer extraordinaire,
creator of it all,
creator of everything, creator of everything. We're going to take a small break. When we return, we're going to dive into some things about his book. We're going to talk some addiction and things that you need to know and to understand when you are communicating with an addict, or if you come across an addict while within the field, or if you're an addict yourself. We're here to help you. So stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back after these short messages. And we are back, Twisted Ascensions on your Friday night, hanging with the boss man, Todd Bates himself. How did you like that commercial? That was a good looking commercial, wasn't it?
That was it's so weird seeing that kind of stuff. I'm telling you, and Brianna, I gotta say, she just kicks ass and takes names back there. You're doing great, Brianna.
She is. You are doing fantastic, boss lady.
Holy cow! But seeing that, it takes you down, takes me down this flash memory path. And that's what a lot of the book was about, was just flashes of my life. And to put your life out there, it's tough, to really sit there and dig out your emotions and just pour your heart out, make yourself vulnerable. You feel really vulnerable. You feel really weak, and people are going to judge you. They're going to have just all kinds of these ill feelings about you.
Yeah.
And then it got to the point where I just did it. I didn't tell anybody I was doing it.
Yeah.
I was like a closet writer.
It happens. Hey, that's when people do the best writing.
I think if I ever wrote, I would probably be a closet writer. I don't even know.
Yeah.
You wouldn't know until I was like, I had something to give you. Yeah. You would not know I was doing it.
It's the only way I could concentrate.
Yeah. Well, Caden, like, I want it to be just right before I let him have it. So, like, I'd have to have something to give him before I told him.
Understandable.
Yeah.
Well, you sent me your book. I bought your book. You sent it to me, and I read it. Everybody in my house has read it. I mean, me, Allisa, our kid.
Yes, he did.
Everybody's read it. And let me tell you, like you said, it takes a lot to put yourself out there. Mm-hmm. I mean, not just, I know a lot of people we put ourselves out there every Friday night, and even on our Southern Ascension page. I mean, we've openly talked about, Alyssa's battle with addiction and overcoming that and stuff. But it's easier to lose track of a live than it is a book, So what made you just like, why now? Why now did you decide like it's time for me to put it out there?
No, it's a great question. I got tired of carrying it.
Oh, that was heavy.
Yeah,
Bossman
That was heavy.
It just it really just hit me that I needed some kind of release. I needed some kind of a way to get this information out, whether it helped people or not. That wasn't my intention at the time, and I don't mean that in a bad way at all.
It's not. It's honest though. It's honest. Your intention was because you had to get it out.
I had to get it out, and
right.
I journal. So writing's not bad once I get started. It's the whole getting started point, and then the things come. The problem is once these incidents in my life that happen, going to prison, working in a prison, then being in one, and the addictions and so forth, those are little scars and little dings that I tried to set in the back of my mind all this time. Now they're all coming back out. And it was almost
made me emotional, and we just now started talking about it. And I'm already.
It was like putting down your fourth step and then putting a cover on it.
Yeah.
It's kind of, for those in the 12
that's what
program.
that is for you.
Mm-hmm.
Like I didn't work the program this last time. Me and you've talked about that, but that's a whole show in itself. But it makes sense to me. Like what you just said makes so much sense to me. And it made me look at your book a lot different when you said it like that. And you said it was your 4 and you put a cover on it. And that's literally, because if you look at it, it's not kind of, it's exactly what it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was a labor of love for sure to write,
right.
To put together a lot of editing. I mean, I'm no professional author here. I broadcast, for crying out loud. I'm not some big time author. So there's some heavy editing that was done in there, but it was all written and put together in a way to where it went through all the different stages of the working corrections. I wanted it to follow the way my life did and not like these flashbacks that confuse the hell out of people.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've read a lot of books. Alyssa's read a lot of books. Mm-hmm. And although I know what you're talking about when you're saying, heavily edited, but when I tell you that reading it, I was reading it in your voice because I could tell that was Todd Bates on that paper, black and white or cream and black, whatever you want to call it. That was you. That was you speaking.
Okay, so I have a question.
Yeah.
You said that because it was heavily edited because you didn't want it to come back as the flashbacks that would confuse people, right? So the years leading up to where you just sat down and dumped it all out and wrote it, was that what it was to you? Was it flashbacks that just confused you and it just took you that long of year? Like
it
that's
did.
the question.
It did. It took me a long time to formulate it.
Yeah.
In my head to where I could section it out, and because these are parts of my life that I threw over here in my mind, and really never faced them until writing that book. And just facing it, it was a fear. Because it's exposure. It's like going outside and running around the house naked or something. It'd be a horrible experience for those involved.
See, I would compare it with like running naked around the house with like a lot of cuts and bruises, knowing that there are things that are going to infect you. That's just my experience in sobriety so far. This go around. Just saying.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, it's been a great ride. It's phenomenal. I wouldn't take anything for it.
But it is.
I would I would gladly take just running naked. Maybe that's just me.
Of course you would.
Maybe that's just me, but I would.
Of course you would.
Well, with sobriety, and I used to think that it would go kind of quickly because like my first round with sobriety was so different, which I was younger. I didn't have the life that I have now, I didn't have then. Like, I don't know. It's so hard to explain, and it's not a dig, but it's hard to get into words yourself, number one. Then number two, it's hard to get anybody to like that hasn't done it or been through it, understand it. And for me, it's really, really difficult to explain the difference in being sober now and going through sobriety and getting sober again and having to come back and do all of this stuff again. Like all of the things that encompasses.
Yeah.
Versus when I was younger and I was not a mother and my life was just different. And everything and everybody in my life was different. Even when I got sober and stayed sober, like the way my life was different. The things that mattered it was just different. So it's wild now. It's very different at an older age.
Night and day.
Yes.
And
I would have never guessed that.
Sometimes it's hard to stay awake like this. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's very hard. Sometimes you're down to the second.
Yep.
Myself. Why don't you take us down your path to addiction and then your path to recovery?
Oh, sure. Yeah, that I would say that first started when I started working corrections, looking for some relief, some kind of stress relief. So I turned to alcohol, started using alcohol pretty heavily after work, things like that. It became a problem. It was an ongoing problem. Well, to give you an idea, I drank, I think, so much alcohol that I had given myself my guts such a bad experience. I had this huge abdominal pain one day. It was just massive. It was terrible. Go to the ER and come to find out I had to have emergency surgery.
Have an ulcer?
No, they had to take out 4 feet of my small intestine.
Holy cow.
Yeah. Crohn's disease. And which was aggravated by all the alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
So it was touch and go there for a while.
Yeah.
So I'm drinking the alcohol, have the surgery. Well, what do they give you after surgery?
Pain
medicine.
Mm-hmm.
Now, back then it was dealt out. They didn't care back in 2000. This was 2008.
Oh, they had all the good stuff they don't make anymore then.
He says, okay, so what we're going to do is give you this for this, and we're going to give you this for breakthrough pain. This breakthrough pain. Oh, well, whatever. So, of course, these things are very high potency.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I became extremely addicted to pain medicine on top of alcohol use. Now, it had got to the point one day, this was in 2010. This is when I had my first bout, my rock bottom, my awakening, so to speak.
Yeah.
Was I had a little, I was running my show out of a bowling center back then here locally, doing haunted voices out of this haunted bowling alley. It was pretty cool, a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Guy had an open bar. Cool. Yeah, he had an open bar. Not so much fun.
No.
So it got to the point where it had cost me my marriage. We were separated at that point. Lost everything, around me. And literally fell in the street one night. My daughter had to help pick me up, and a passerby had to stop and assist. And it was just terrible, traumatic for my child. And the rock bottom was when I passed out on the floor, woke up that next morning or I thought it was morning, couldn't take it anymore, and went into a fabulous place. It was just an amazing place in Charleston, Illinois that just welcomed you with open arms, no questions asked, come in here, and it was a 28-day program and completely rebooted me, woke me up got me off the sauce and all the bad stuff, detoxed, all the good stuff like that. Just went through hell for a while.
Yeah.
I mean, it's what
Yeah.
we do.
Yep.
But
It is.
there's an upside to it all. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
I've heard that. I have heard that a whole lot.
And I'm a firm believer that on the other side of fear is courage.
Mm.
And putting a human body through some of the things that we do is astounding in itself. It blows my mind. Some of the stuff I put in my body.
Oh, I know.
It's like, are you kidding me?
I know.
You just swallowed that. Doesn't matter.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I know. I've set, and Caden can attest to it because he hears it. Him and my best friend and my mom probably hear it more than anybody in my life. But there's at least once a week where the one of the three of them, if not all three of them once a week here, that I can't, like, if my heart rate gets up, I'll be like, I can't believe I didn't have a heart attack. How have I not? Like, how is she still beating in there? And I'm like, Hayden, the only thing I messed up was my teeth and my brain. We're doing good. Like, how did I make it this far? Because, I make light of a lot of it. And I haven't always. And it took me a long time to get to a place where I could. I've always been honest about it. I've always talked about it. But it took me a long time to where I could make light of it or be okay with it being anybody making light of it. But
right.
I had to get to where I was okay with everybody knowing everything before I was just like, you know what?
And that's okay too.
But I mean, I've really had sat down and done an inventory because I'm not old. I don't think I'm old. I know I'm not. I'm in my early 30s. But I have done some damage to this vehicle that was given to me. And it was all done by myself, but I've done pretty well, I think, I think I know, because that's the only thing, so far, that's the only thing that's popped up. I haven't had any other health issues.
Good.
Other than that. And my kidneys act up occasionally, but that's it. And Caden made sure he took me, and which that was probably like the first big public shame that I felt afterwards was the very first time I left the house. Caden had took me to the doctor. We went to go get me. I had to have a whole clearance for rehab, and he had to get me there quickly because they had to get me in detox, and you got to have a whole clearance. So this was also during COVID. So that was not fun either.
No.
Oh. So that bout of sobriety was an adventure in itself because it was the year of Rona, and it was the very beginning of it. Like nobody knew what to do, so it was wild.
Yeah, that was a panicky time of year.
Yes, it was.
So how long did you end up staying in rehab?
Well,
It
total
was a 28-day program, I think he said.
Rehabilitation itself, that program was 2 months. And the second program I went through was 6 months.
Was the second one an inpatient or an outpatient?
Inpatient. Yeah,
Inpatient.
They were both inpatient. Outpatient and me, I don't think, and I told them this. I was honest about it. I said, it's not going to work. So outpatient is not going to work. You're not going to help. You're going to help me to the liquor store. You're not going to.
Yeah. I'm going to come talk to you, and I'm going to leave and go do what I want to do. Anyway.
Right.
Yeah. It's
not going to work. You gotta put me in there. I've got to. Yeah. Got to reboot. People that haven't gone through it, or that may be hard for them to understand, but it's something inside tells you enough's enough. And everybody has an enough's enough button. Some people explode. Some people drink excessively. Some people do drugs or whatever, prescriptions. Abuse. I mean, there's vices that everybody has, and it's tough to work in. It's tough to work.
Sorry.
It's hilarious.
Her leg got wrapped up in the cord, and I was trying to unwrap it. You gonna fall out these little bitty chairs that we're sitting
We
in.
can't have a serious moment on this show for nothing. Can you?
I was trying to be nice, damn it.
Oh, I love
He
this
couldn't
stuff.
even finish his sentence because he got so tickled, and I couldn't realize what he was laughing at because I live with you and I'm so used to doing life with you.
Give us just 3 seconds. Pick your leg up. Pick your leg up. Give it here.
I'm
There you go.
fine.
Put it right there.
I'm good.
You good now?
Just
Yes.
Okay. All right. We are all set.
Everybody's all set.
It's not a show with us unless there's some sort of blooper, okay?
Okay.
Some sort.
Anyway.
But the thing that, I was an addict as well, but mine was very short stint compared to yours, Alyssa's, and other people out there. It was still too long. I shouldn't have done it, but 3 years, and my addiction was while I was in high school. I got addicted at a very young age because, like you said, it started out. I had knee surgery at 15. What do they put you on after surgery? Painkillers.
Yeah.
That's how mine started. But because I never went into rehab or went into a facility, Allisa kind of told me, kind of how hers, when she was in and out of them, when she was younger, kind of how they operated. And with yours or with hers, like you went to meetings after 2 of your stints. So with you, did you continue to go to the AA meetings or NA meetings?
For a while, 12-step. And I told him this several times that, there was a lot of things that I didn't agree with the 12-step program. And of course you get the naysayers saying, well, you're not in the right program.
Right.
You're not working the program, what have you. There's good and bad.
I agree.
I think it's a good foundation, but I found it, what's the word I'm looking for? Less inviting for me to go to meetings because they would always make me want to use after.
Yep.
If that made any sense.
See,
I've told Caden that.
Yeah, and I never went personally, but I took my best friend after high school. I had already been sober, but she was not. And part of her program was she had to go, but she wasn't allowed to drive. So I went with her and drove her. Usually I would sit in the parking lot, but then there's 3 times where I went in, and I'm only speaking on the one that I went to. It was very depressing. And I'm not talking about people's stories. I meant just the environment itself, to where I didn't feel welcome. Like, I kind of felt like I was scum of the earth and
the nerves, the anxiety, and it's tough. And that's all supposed to be a part of the program itself is putting you into that, taking you out of, ripping you out of your comfort zone. And the 12 there's different programs out there for, to use. There's all kinds of different ones, but I think in its time it worked great.
Yeah.
But I think it's evolved since then, and the drugs have evolved since then.
Oh, for sure.
The alcohol has evolved since then.
For sure.
It's time to rewrite a few things.
Life has evolved. So the pressures that leaded people to addiction in 1975 are not the same pressures that are leading a 21 and 22 and 23-year-old beginner adult into a long road of alcoholism and drug addiction. It's not the same pressure. It's not the same things. There's so much more pressure now by the age of like 23 to be full. Like, I remember being younger and feeling like by the time I'm 21, if I'm going to go to college, I need to be done or close to done and at least able to start paying on what I have started on. Like, I remember the immense pressure just in my small town of certain things. And through the years, that's had to have changed because I don't care now that I'm an adult. I do not care. But for a 19 or 21-year-old in a town, that has told them their whole life they've got to be married and have kids and have a career and a home. If you feel like you're failing constantly, it doesn't
a lot of
take
pressure.
much. It does not take much. And it could be anybody.
Well, and the fact that even 30 years ago, 20 years ago, we'll say.
I mean, the economy plays a huge role in it.
The economy was in a much different place than what it is. It was easier to make a living then than what it is now. So that's added stress.
But nobody wants, and I have not heard very many people talk about the fact that plays into the addiction numbers. But it does.
My next question for Mr. Todd was, I do know that when you're working a program, because I did, instead of going to a program, I did therapy. I went to therapy. And one of the things that I felt was most important for my sobriety that Allisa also felt was important was hers, and maybe you do as well, was finding that trigger that snapped inside of you or triggered you into addiction. You know, for me, most of my family on my father's side was addicts. So genetically, it was going to hit somebody, and it just happened to be the rebellious dude, me. And with Alyssa's addiction was within your family, but her personal young adulthood and the marriage that she had at that time and the way that she was living triggered her into really going into the addiction.
Well, I mean, it did, but the trigger would be just the emotional stuff.
Right.
Emotional.
Well, I mean, that's what I'm saying is emotional. Yeah. For me, it was emotional. For you, was was your trigger emotion or was it stress?
My trigger was definitely a mixture of stress and emotion. I would say I had whenever I came home from prison, I had a really severe breakdown. Yeah. I mean, I was found rocking back and forth in the corner. You know, they put me in the loony bin for 2.5 months.
Been there.
You know.
Me too.
And it's a tough road.
Wait, we all have paperwork proving it?
I guess. I didn't know Todd had them. I mean, we knew.
Certifiable.
We're certified.
That's too.
Certifiable. And that's just how we roll, I think.
I got several certificates.
You do. I just got the one stamp that I did. But
I got several of them.
I just got the one stamp.
What year are we looking at?
Yeah.
Just tell me.
But I mean, Alyssa's gonna know for sure. Jails, institutions. Oh my! You know, I mean, they're just one. They go hand in hand when it comes to addiction, alcoholism, and then mixing that with the paranormal. Holy cow! Yeah, that's an insanity within itself.
Yes.
Well, for people who are listening, you know, because they just heard you saying, you know, when you came home from jail, you were a corrections officer. You started drinking while you were an officer.
Yeah.
And were you an officer, or sergeant, lieutenant, just officer?
Sergeant, yeah.
Sergeant, okay. Me too. I was a sergeant. Yeah. So for people who don't understand, I was a correctional sergeant, and then I was also a assistant lieutenant when they shipped me up to Idaho. And I was in the same boat as you. And I really don't. Allisa knows because I came home and she's seen it and she dealt with me. And God love her for it because I don't know anybody else they could have. When you work in corrections in jail, there's really no explaining the stress that you're under unless you go and do it. You know, it's not, for me, working in Tennessee at the prison that I worked at. It wasn't just the stress of having to work or being scheduled to work 12-hour shifts, but you're really going to work 16 to 18 shifts.
Yeah.
It wasn't the stress of there being 500 inmates per 1 or 2 officers. You know, there's 500 inmates at any given time around you 24/7, and there's no help. There's no help. And all we had to rely on was our training. And, you know, I was really great in the academy. I graduated second in my class, and that was only because the guy who got first was 6'2" and weighed 250 pounds. And he was an ex-cop and ex-military. Like, that was the only reason. But still, I'm 5'3", and I was like 140. at the time, maybe 130.
I
was
you were
little.
at like 130.
I was like 130. I was a little dude. Okay, I looked like a little troll garden gnome.
Little troll.
You were little, but you could still pick me up.
I was stout, but
little stout thing. Like
I can't tell you how many times I had bodily fluids thrown on me. I can't tell you how many times that I had to deal with riots, and I worked segregation unit. Like I begged them to put me in there because they were noisy. I got tired of hearing them in the hallway, and I'm like, put me in there and I'll deal with it. And we did. And I don't know if your prison had to do it. We had these big old stab-proof vests that we had.
Oh, sure. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, mind you, most of the guards there, because in Tennessee, everything birthed in Tennessee has got to be tall. Little Mississippi fella me, though, these stab-proof vests look like stab-proof dresses on me. And any time that I was having to put hands on an inmate to escort them, there was nothing I could do. All they had to do is thump me in the forehead, and I'm going back like a turtle soup. Just, I can't move. I've been in 4 fights, and it wasn't an inmate trying to attack me per se. It was me trying to save somebody else. I'm assuming since you were a sergeant, you're part of SORT or CERT. I'm not sure. The Special Operations Group.
Yes. Yeah. The weapons team, extraction team, all that fun stuff.
I remember I never understood why Allisa hated it until after I got out of corrections, and she would tell me that, for 12 hours, I couldn't call her. No cell phones allowed, no phone calls allowed, nothing. So there's zero communication. And she knew at 7 p.m. or at 7:05, if I had not called her, that something was going on. If 8 o'clock rolled around and she still hadn't heard me, then something major rolled around. Mm-hmm. And if it's later, she's calling the prison. Mm-hmm. And there was once that an inmate was unruly, ended up, and it was in the seg cell, broke the plexiglass out of it, got it, and it looked like blood. So I went up there and I'm expecting, and he was on his bunk, and I had just turned my back for a second to pick up the rest of the glass to get it, and I felt something in my side. I mean, I turn and look, and this guy, try to stab me.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And most people, when they hear corrections officer, they think that you're just a security guy. No.
Oh.
It's so much stress.
Guess who doesn't have a gun?
Yeah, you don't have guns.
Like,
if something goes down and you have a bunch of inmates around you, you have 2 choices. Yep. You either armadillo, which is just doing this number and hope that you survive it, or you try to fight, which 9 times out of 10 makes it worse.
Yeah.
So I understand what pushed you to drink, because there were times where that's what I wanted to do, or was to go back and, get on a pill just to stay relaxed, because it's not just while you're at that prison.
It never goes away. Yours never turned off. And it did. I mean, there was 2 years worth. And we've talked about it, and that was a long time ago, but I just told him, I was like, you gonna work there? Or are you coming home to us, buddy? Because we can't do this.
Yeah.
But he was so miserable. And I knew he was miserable, and he was not ready to admit that he was, because he did love what he did and he was good at it. And I've never took that from him, because he was. And he did love it, because there was those few ones in between that he would meet and he would help them. And then even till this day, there have been a handful of them that are still doing great. But he was at a point where he was coming home, and it was like there was no switch to shut it off anymore. He couldn't find it to even realize sometimes that he was at home and speaking to me and Asher.
Right.
And then he would see it, and then I would see it on his face that he had broken his own heart once he realized what he had done. But then he would get angry because he had upset himself, because he upset it. Like, it was just a whole vicious cycle. And I was like, terrible. This is not, you can't keep doing it. And if you refuse to stop, then I got to get off the train for a little while, buddy. No. Because he was He was just miserable.
Yes.
And
It's a love hate with corrections, isn't it?
It is. It is.
You hate that you love it, and you love that you hate it too.
Yeah.
All in the same breath.
It really is. You know, it makes a person, definitely makes a person push to the tips of their limits, and then exceed their limits too, in many ways. But the stress involved is unbelievable. I mean, my God, it was unbelievable. But I'm glad I rolled out of that and got into a community, a place that finally welcomed me was this place.
Yeah.
You know, out of all the muck, all the, coming home and going bonkers for a while and having to readjust, I had to have a counselor come over and take me to restaurants to reintroduce me to society because I was just a little off.
Yeah.
You know, and
I believe it.
to be at that for a person to be at that level in their life, it's hard because you're used to what? Yeah, I'm just going to the store. I'm just going to a restaurant.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't like that. It wasn't that simple. So it's tough, and I couldn't find anybody because see, here I was, this new felon in town.
Mm-hmm.
No one's really gonna stay away from that guy. You know, that kind of thing.
No, you have a lovable face.
Oh, yeah. Sure. But this field welcomed me with open arms.
Yeah.
You know, come on in. And I love it for that. And I always will love it for that. No matter what it does, what it produces, you know, it at the end of the day, it welcomed me with open arms, no matter what.
Yeah.
But you know, going through it all, I wouldn't change a thing. I mean, I know that's probably hard for a lot of people to hear. I wouldn't change a thing going through all that because that's what made me what I am today, who I am today, and what I'm going to be tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of hanging out with that. And as long as I stay as close to the moment as possible.
Courtney.
Maybe
it was, but that hair's attached to that face though, isn't it?
Yeah.
At least it grows there.
Yeah.
No,
I mean, but I understand what you're saying 100%, but I'm also a very firm believer of, you know, harmonious balance has to happen. You'll never truly be grateful for the great things that happen in your life if you haven't sat at rock bottom and ate by yourself. Mm-hmm. You know, you have to. And it's not fun while you're there and you think about everything that you've done to other people. And with me, it wasn't necessarily drugs because I was fortunate enough to where my drug addiction wasn't well known, except for with my friend group. My parents had no idea. They just thought that it was pubescent stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I was fortunate enough, but my other actions that occurred afterwards because of the drugs that the mental institution put me on, that just put me all out of whack. You know, the anger issues, the extreme anxiety that would in turn go from extreme anxiety to extreme zombie-like. I don't know. You have to go through a lot of stuff, and I wouldn't change any of mine either, because like you said, it makes you who you are today. It does. It makes you who you are. It can suck, and you can not like that it happened.
Oh yeah.
But
it sucks. There's a lot of suck in it. There's a lot of suck in that. Mm-hmm. But it's going through that suck again, you know, because I've had a lot of people that have read the book. They've asked, you know, would you do that again? And about the incident where I said, okay, what do you want? You know, whenever I was extorted by that prison gang in there.
Yeah.
Sometimes there comes a point in your life where you can't go left, you can't go right. You just have to do the next right thing. And that's what I thought I was doing by saving my family, doing that. And I wouldn't change that decision. Sure, I could have turned and walked away, but you know what would have happened? I wouldn't be here. My family wouldn't be here.
Right.
So
everything happens for a reason.
Absolutely. And I think that's where the spiritual awakening kicked in a little bit too.
Yeah.
Because that's a wake-up call for a person.
Yeah.
You know,
I can imagine.
Working all those years and then being behind one. Oh my goodness. I can't tell you how scary that was. Because
Sure.
I can imagine.
For example, I've been putting trip gear on for years on inmates to trip them out. I was a trip officer for a while, overtime. Yeah. And to wear this myself and actually not be in a training facility wearing it, but just wearing it. I can't go anywhere.
Yeah.
And it's like they put you in your bedroom, they shut that door. There's no opening that door, no matter how hard you try, no matter how much you try.
Yeah.
And that makes you think. That puts you in a place, I think, spiritually, where it almost just takes you and wads you up like this, squeezes out the bad stuff, and then hands you back yourself. It gives you that time to just unwind.
That was the universe giving you the time to really think about what it is you needed to do. What, Todd, this is what you need to do. You're not listening to me. I'm about to make you listen.
Let me wash you off and bring you out.
Exactly what it was. And it was it wasn't a bad experience. Like I wasn't in prison in this real bad prison where I was getting shanked or anything, or it was the same place Mike Tyson went.
Oh,
IYC there.
Yeah.
But most of it was in county. I was a corrections officer, so I was going to make an excellent trustee, for crying out loud. So it wasn't. I'm not going to say it wasn't a bad experience, but it wasn't a horrible experience because I learned a lot in there.
Yeah.
A person learns a lot about themselves when the world is taken away from them.
Yeah.
When your world is taken away and you have no other choice but to learn something new, you learn, and you learn quickly.
Yeah.
Were there, when you were in your addiction, did everybody around you, colleagues, family members, did they ever talk about later on when you got sober the red flags that they ignored, or maybe the red flags that they didn't see?
No.
Unfortunately not. And I wish that my kids would go through, to this day, I wish they'd go through an Al-Anon program or something, some kind of information, education on it, because it would explain a lot of my behavior.
Gotcha.
Or things that they might remember.
What's that?
Like your behavior that they might remember.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't want that to be an excuse or anything.
No, but you want them to understand it wasn't them.
Sure. It wasn't them at all. It was just I was in my addiction. So
yeah.
I think that's and I hope that your relationship with your kids are going to continue to get better and better, for sure. 100%. Everybody who recovers, they deserve that, And I think a common misunderstanding that people who've never battled addiction is that they don't realize it's not the person when they're in active addiction. It's not truly them. When Allisa, what I mean by that is when Allisa relapsed 3 years ago, I had my family and my friends, because a lot happened within those first 4 days that it was, okay, I pulled her out of a trap house, basically. We're done this and this and this. And for 3 days, it was a lot of information dumped on a lot of different people. And I had everybody telling me, just leave. Like, she did that to you. There's no coming back from that. You'll never trust her again. All this. And I kept telling them the same thing. I would believe you if I didn't know her soul. If I didn't know Allisa before she had relapsed, I wouldn't have stayed. But I knew that the Allisa that I had for that year prior, looking back, was not my Allisa. That was addiction.
You just called me your Allisa.
My
That's
Allisa.
so sweet.
It was the addiction. Yes,
Yeah.
it was her body. Yes, it was her words. But it really is just a disease that all your cognitive functions are gone.
Oh yeah.
Your logical thinking is gone.
It's
Some
toast.
of mine is still like I'm pretty honest about it.
Yeah.
I struggle logically. That's another side effect that I've found that is still lingering. It's not as bad as it was. It's very hazy and foggy, but I struggle. Like sometimes it's just difficult to do.
Oh yeah.
For me. The most logical thing is what should come to my brain does not at all. And it's enough to aggravate people if you don't know me. And that's understandable to me because it would aggravate me if I didn't know me and I didn't know why somebody was doing that. And you're looking at this 33-year-old woman like, what the hell is wrong with you?
No, I get it.
You know, so I mean, it took Aiden a little bit because he was like, Alyssa, are you serious? I was like, yes, I'm dead. But once he realized that I meant what I was saying when I said, Caden, I don't know what's happening, because it's like you feel like it should be there, but it's not there. Like logical things don't pass through at all anymore. Not much, anyway.
No, logical thinking, and critical thinking is another one too that I struggle with these days, but I'm getting better with. Do
you have an exercise to?
It's hard.
Share?
Red leather, yellow leather.
I can't even say that.
I can't either.
My Mississippi twang is not gonna let me say that.
Yeah.
Red leather.
Red leather, yellow leather.
Red leather,
yellow leather.
Red leather, yellow leather.
Yeah, no, I can't.
And you say this out loud, and what this does is it slows down your mind. This is a trick my one of my instructors taught me. It slows down your mind, puts it at the same pace of your mouth. So I teach it to a lot of the hosts.
My mouth runs 90 to nothing all the time until I am
brain
snoring.
Matches it too.
My brain does.
Yes.
You think so?
I'm pretty sure
compliment
that you
right there.
talk in tongue twisters. Because sometimes when you say stuff out loud, it comes out as a tongue twister.
Oh, I already know.
I don't even know what it is. No idea what it is.
I got top tier. I got big compliments tonight.
Oh, my goodness.
He's doing good tonight.
I'm
Sure
with the
is.
boss lady saying, I told him the other day, I can't even think that right. I'm struggling just to think of that sentence.
I know it's tough, and it does. It seems tough until you practice it and do it enough. But it keeps your mind and your mouth more in sync. It helps me anyway. Whenever I'm sitting here, let's say, working away, and I'm getting stressed out, I will take a moment, sit back like this, and I will red leather, yellow leather myself. And it just kind of, or use the word bubbles. You can always say bubbles. And if you're pissed off about anything, you say bubbles, you're going to laugh.
You're going to start giggling.
Yeah.
It's a funny word.
You
Bubbles.
put it afterwards.
Bubbles.
Do you know what word of mine? It doesn't matter who says it, where I hear it. As soon as I hear it, I'm going to bust out laughing. Tabernacle.
We were coming home from riding one day, from mud riding, and we passed this old church in BFE. Like, that's all I know to say. And the sign is legible, but the only part on it that's legible is tabernacle. And Cajun says, well, I guess that's not the right word. There's got to be something else on that sign. That ain't the right word. And I was like, okay, that's the word. It's called tabernacle, buddy. And he said, it's called what? He said, tabernacle. And he said, tabernacle.
So now it's just, that's my word. Like if I'm in a bad mood, just let somebody say tabernacle, I'm gonna stop and just look and be like, tabernacle.
Yep.
And I'll start
Tabernacle.
giggling.
Tabernacle. He was like, "What is it?" I was like, "You never learned about the tabernacles in the Bible and church? Like they never." He was like, "No."
No.
Little thing,
No.
little dory open there.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, oh my goodness.
Tabernacle is a funny word, and there's tons of funny words out there.
There is.
Yes.
But
I
they're
mean,
fun to
that's
say.
but that's a great, we'll call it a ritual. That's a great ritual, to keep your mind and your mouth like in sync.
Yeah.
So I mean, to this, because when we come back from the break, we're gonna lighten things up a little bit and talk about some other stuff, some good stuff in your book, and some other things that you got going on. But I mean, now to this present day, what is your sober? How long have you been sober?
Well, I had a relapse, which I wrote about in the second book that's coming. I had a relapse in 2019. Wasn't a relapse. It was a slip. Relapse is when you continue.
Yep.
I didn't continue. This was literally it for me.
Yeah.
So October 24th of 2019 is my sobriety date, because I use that as a check for myself, because I'd been sober 12 years prior to that. So I use that as a ding for myself to get myself back in order, so kind of reset myself a little bit. And this one I haven't done inpatient or anything yet. So I'm good to go for now.
We got a mask program that kicked my ass into gear. Just call it Caden Mask Boot Camp.
Damn.
He'll get you. Yeah. He'll love you to death.
It's tough love.
He will love you to death.
Not
all of it was tough love. I'm going to say like 50% of it was tough love.
We do. So we have a question for you, Todd, because I think that you would be best to answer this.
Okay.
It's from Courtney. Can I get a little personal? I have a sister who is struggling with her alcoholism. What are some things I can do to help her? She was recently not in a good state over a very small altercation, but the police didn't do much because they can't. What can I do?
It's tough, Courtney.
Yes.
It's really tough to get involved with something like that, because she has to want to help herself. They have to want to help themselves. And we can't change people that don't want to be changed. A person has to want to change. So take a moment, sit back, maybe talk to them, see if some kind of treatment plan would be good for them. But definitely keep in touch with them. Don't set them aside. Don't, oh my goodness, don't alienate them, because that's what's happening all around them. So,
right.
Show them some love, definitely. And then, kind of, I mean, that's what I would do. I'm no professional by any stretch of the imagination, but that's what I would do, because everybody needs a little help sometimes. Don't be afraid to ask for it. Don't be afraid to give it.
True. Very true.
Do you have anything you would like to
add? Other than, I agree with Todd. I've made it very obvious. I agree. People can't get sober until they want to. They're not going to. She could go and stay sober for a year, but if it's not what she wants to do, she's not going to stay that way.
You're going to go right back.
You can relentlessly let her know that when she is ready, you are there. That's it. That's all you got to do. Let me know. I'm here. Just call. Other than that, just make sure you can get training for yourself if you wanted to, just to make sure you could do something until paramedics got there. There's small things you could do just to ensure that she stays alive, and try not to enable her as best as you can, and love her from far away if that's what you have to do. It sucks.
You said the key words: try not to enable.
It sucks so bad. Because when you're not enabling them, if you have been, when you stop, they're going to say you hate them and you don't love them. But it's not them. They know you love them. They're just, their body needs something else more because it's sick.
Yeah.
And that's what matters at that moment. Nothing else matters.
And, coming from a loved one like you, Courtney, that's dealing with somebody who is in addiction, you need to talk to somebody as well. Help isn't just for an addict. It's also for people who love addicts. You need to talk to somebody. And there are a lot of fantastic, I'm not sure where you live. If you send me a message, though, I can try to help you find. But there are a lot of free courses that you can take that will, like Allisa said and Mr. Todd said, will teach you how to, in case there's an emergency, because she is an alcoholic, she can't just go cold turkey.
Nope.
It's very dangerous. There has to be a way that it's done.
Well, it depends on how long she's been on it, but she
True.
regardless needs medical.
Yeah.
She needs to be completely looked over medically.
Yeah. I would be very proactive in this. If she's not ready for help yet, at least be proactive so that you're ready when she's ready. Go ahead and start figuring out for your state and county. There are grants. A lot of people don't know about that. When it comes to rehabs, there are certain grants that are allowed to pay for it. Yeah, that they're allowed to pay for, or they're allotted to whatever drug of choice, or in this case, alcoholism. You need to figure out where those places are so that when the day comes and she's like, I'm ready,
you don't have to fumble. You can get her there right then.
Just pick up the phone, call, hey, I'm bringing her in, and you go. Aside from that, though, just like they said, tough love does go a long way, but tough love doesn't have to be torturous as well.
Right.
You need to know your boundaries. You also need to know that there are certain things that you can and cannot say, because you need to figure out her triggers. And it's not trying to tiptoe and walk on eggshells. It's just you don't want to make things worse accidentally.
And they're really vulnerable. When anybody's like fixing to start detoxing, or they're at the beginning of detoxing and they're in the middle of it and it's rough, they're super vulnerable and they're very fragile by that. And they are fragile. It's very easy for you and them just to walk right on out and go right back to doing what they was, because they're sick. Their body hurts. Yep. Their brain is not okay. Like, they're not okay.
Yeah, it's rough.
And if you push too hard with the toughness, I think that's a real fragile moment, because they're sick. So they have already got a reason to be craving whatever their vice is.
Yep.
And if you push them, that might be the push that they go get it. Not that they think, I didn't mean it as dark as that sounded. I just meant it might be what makes them not stay at rehab. They just leave,
Have a contingency plan in place, because, I just read where you said that she flips fast, where she wants to go and then she doesn't. Go ahead and get everything planned out. Have that phone number on speed dial and have a bag just packed.
Yep.
Really, she doesn't have to have a bag for a while. When she first gets there, they're going to put her in a gown anyway. She's not going to need no clothes for a hot minute. They're going to give her what she needs.
Yep. Be well taken care of.
Yep.
Absolutely. But I think this is do you have anything left for right now, Mr. Todd?
I'm good.
You good right now? Okay. Well, we're going to take our final break at the bottom of the hour. When we return, we're going to lighten up the mood a little bit. We're still going to be real, still going to talk some addiction, but we're also going to give it away. We got a book giveaway tonight, so make sure everybody watching, stay tuned in, because let me tell you, it's so worth the read. And you think that, the things that Todd was talking about tonight were detailed, you have no idea. It's all in here. All in here. His heart and soul is in this book, and you don't want to miss that. So stay tuned. We'll be right back after these short messages.
No matter the questions, Ellie Weisencell can help you find the answers. Ellie is a gifted intuitive and a natural energy healer, which she applies using the body code and emotion code healing systems, among others, to help you achieve balance for your best results. Are you looking for more clarity about which direction to follow with your life, health, or career? Let Ellie guide you. As a psychic, Ellie can provide clarity to the path you are on, so you may use your free will to change the direction of your life. Are you wanting to communicate with a loved one who's passed? As a certified psychic medium, Ellie Weisencell can connect you with your loved ones on the other side to facilitate healing or offer closure. To schedule your appointment with Ellie, look her up on Facebook at Ellie Weisencell Psychic Medium, or email her at elliewisencell@gmail.com. That's Ellie Weisensel, Weisensel.
Welcome back to the show, Murder. This is Twisted Ascensions with Kate and Allisa and the Bossman, Todd Bates. Producing the show tonight is the lovely boss lady, Brianna. Everybody give claps and loves for Brianna. She's doing a fantastic job.
She's doing awesome.
She's doing awesome tonight. And those of you who have tuned in all show, thank you so very much. I know that we appreciate it. Todd appreciates it. And these are well, this is just one of those topics that
it's life.
It's life. It is absolutely life. And, you know, we're talking mainly about Todd's life tonight, but we're also talking about addiction and addiction within the paranormal field. And, you know, Todd, you were in the paranormal field prior to your addiction. And were you still currently in, like, doing investigations during your addiction or no?
There was a time, a short time, heavily for about 6 months where I was in both. And I remember one day with the painkillers, I didn't go to any facility to get treated for those. I actually just stopped taking them one day. And it was the most horrible experience of my life. But I figured, okay, Todd, you got yourself into this, and get yourself out of it. And that doing it the hard way, this is going to sound weird, but it sticks with me. You know, I learned my lesson. Okay. And you could barely get me to take an ibuprofen these days. It's just crazy. And it's it's one of those times where, you know, a person just needs to grab their bootstraps, pull them up the best they can, and try your best to put this behind you and just stay in the present, stay in the moment. Yeah. What always kept me, what would put me back in the moment was this analogy someone told me years ago. If you stand with one foot in tomorrow and another foot in yesterday, all you're doing is pissing all over today.
I have the same quote printed out at my office work. It is my favorite because it's so true.
It is.
It is so true. You know, a lot of people, they believe, you know, you have to constantly think ahead, which is true to an extent. But if you only got part of yourself in the future and part of it in the past, you completely left nothing for the present you.
Yeah. I'm bad about that.
Yeah.
You're getting better.
I'm pretty rough about it. I think I don't know that I have ever met anybody as like detrimental to their own self as I am to me. I'm aware of it. But like
we create our own chaos.
Boy.
You
but
know,
the thing is, it's great to have loved ones around you to help you out of that chaos. But when it comes down to it, it's you getting yourself. And that's something that everybody needs to remember, that it's amazing to have loved ones around to help you through things.
Oh,
it
sure.
truly is. But the greatest gift that you can give yourself is your own time to work on you.
Yeah.
And I want to say from the bottom of my heart that I'm glad that you took care of you.
Oh, me too. I'm so glad you're here. We're here because you're here, man.
I am so happy that you did. You know, but there's a lot of things that you learned about yourself going through it, just like you said. And, you know, being a corrections officer and then going in as an inmate and then coming out, I mean, you're brand new Todd, you know, brand new Todd. A little piece of you is always going to stay kind of thinking about the past. But I don't view that as a bad thing because sometimes we have to remind ourselves with sobriety in general, like Allisa.
Right.
You know, it's not an everyday battle, like all day, every day.
Sure.
But it's a wake up and I have to be sober today. And reminding yourself of this is what I'm living for. These are my goals. These are my people. This is what I'm fighting for. It's a battle worth fighting.
It is. It is. And that's well said. That's very well said, because there's a lot a person goes through that's experiencing this, and give them time, give them love somehow.
Yeah.
Because it's tough. It's tough going through it alone.
I agree with what you say, but I know only because I watched my family. Like, I know that it tears them down. It does. Trying to love somebody and love on them while they're going through the darkest time of theirs, and then you're hurt. Like, it's
tough.
It is. It's rough.
It's tough.
And then when you get sober, which I don't know. I can't say when I got sober. Like, before I ever left my house, I dealt with a crap ton of shame and guilt, because looking at my home, looking at my home, and Asher would be in his room, and Caden's doing what Caden does around the house or outside in the yard, and I'm like, golly, man, I almost just completely destroyed. And then I would just get so tore up, and Caden would be like, Allisa, stop. You can't do that. You're here. You're here right now, and that's what matters. Yeah, we're all still a little shook up, but you're here. And we can be pissed off later. It's a good day today. Like, he would get me out of my head real quick. Even when I knew he was hurting. He wasn't okay. I'm his wife. He was not okay. But he would unselfishly just yank me right down and be like, no, ma'am. Is this a good day today? Nobody has said anything. And ain't nobody coming over here. It's just us. It's just us. We're just here. It's okay. He would. It took him, like a month to get me to go to town. Finally, he was like, look, I ain't got you out of the house yet, but I'm going to. We're buying the kid a four-wheeler. We're going to go get Asher a four-wheeler today. I was like, we're doing what? He wasn't lying. We left, and we arrived at someone's house, and we got a four-wheeler, and then we left there.
Fun times.
And he was like, now I'm going to take you to eat, because I got to get out of the house. So we're going to eat today. Okay? Like, that's how it went. And then, I slowly acclimated back to real life, and I got around people. And sometimes I think I done it a little fast. Because after I got a little taste of it, I was real eager. And I kind of got knocked down several times because I jumped into things too fast.
I get it.
And by knocked down, it was all just emotional. I didn't relapse. I didn't go find anything. I didn't want to go find anything. But I have in this new sobriety that I'm in, I have been more honest in my life than I have ever been with anybody. With Caden, like, and he doesn't, like, I don't like it because his face, like, he's my husband. I know him. So when his face changes, I'm like, shit, okay, well, okay, it's okay. Because I'll tell him, I'm like, I'm not okay today. Caden. And if today was a day where I had something, I would have walked to you and told you you better take this and get rid of it right now. Like, I would be like, today's that kind of day, Caden. It's that day. Today is that day. It's that day. It's not just I woke up and got sober today. It's I had to fight all day. And it took him time, but he's done better at sobriety than I have, honestly.
It's an acquired practice.
He's pretty good at it.
It really is. It really is.
It's one hell of a discipline too.
It is.
To keep yourself.
Just there. Kind of
it is.
The final thought from me on it, though, when it comes to it, and for anybody that is a loved one to somebody who's an addict, your heart's going to break, and you won't ever be the same. Much like whoever it was that was addicted, once they get sober, they're not going to be the same. You might as well throw out that everything's going to go back to normal, because there's no more normal. You have to relearn. You have to create a new normal. That
doesn't mean he's not saying it's bad. I think a lot of people.
Good thing. It's a cleansing thing. It's a change thing. That's a freaking reckoning.
Yes,
it really is. It's a wake up call.
It's a painful.
The day that I found her at the house, and The only person that got her home was our best friend, Jason Fife, that we've had on the show before. He stayed on the phone with her the whole way till she came home.
Mm-hmm.
And when she got home, I battled myself going from I'm going to hug her and thank her that she's home to I just because at the time, all I knew was some funny business had been going on for quite a while.
Yeah.
I had an idea of what I thought was going on, but
you
drugs,
knew by then because of the money.
I didn't know yet. I did not know about the drugs until the day that she came home. I thought it was just an affair. I mean, let's just be completely honest. I thought it was an affair.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't find out until I put on my correctional investigation hat and located her an hour and a half to 2 hours away from my home by driving the back roads till I spotted her vehicle.
She said that real marriage stuff.
And yeah. But when she came home, I went back and forth with it. But I told her that day, I'm like, I'm not worried about our marriage. As far as I am concerned, currently, we're not married. But I'm your best friend, and I am going to stay with you to make sure that you get help. Put the marriage aside. You're my best friend, and I'm not letting you ruin your life anymore. I mean, I kind of put myself second to it. I had stuff I had to deal with, of course, but it was second nature. Like, we're getting you help. But I mean, those first 3 days,
you didn't say it that way though, because you never, like he said, I'm not your husband right now. I'm your best friend. Like that, you need to understand that, and that's all he said. You weren't that harsh with it, but I knew what he meant. He would have been that harsh with it if I was like push the envelope, and be like, no, I need you to tell me because I was high. I mean, I was spaced out. I had been to space, went to Mars, a couple other planets, and drove back. And like he was trying to get me in a tub. He was like, "Listen, you smell like that place. Like it was not good. It was disgusting. He's very
But all of that to say is that it eventually does get better. And although we both lost a piece of us, just like you lost a little piece of you when you relapsed and went through your addiction. You're going to lose a little piece of yourself. But what we gained going through that, our marriage is so much better than what it was before then. And it's because it kind of forced us to do exactly what you talked about. We both had to look at ourselves and figure out what we wanted for us, not for each other, but for us.
Absolutely.
You know, and it's a communication that you have to have. And sometimes that caterpillar goes in and it does come out as a butterfly. Not just sometimes it does.
It was a lot. We still get growing pains. We're 3 years into this rodeo, and it's out of both of our wheelhouses. We ain't never done this. We've been together for 10, and we on 3 years of a whole wife that, whew. But I mean, we still get growing pains.
But going through your addiction, do you feel like it has helped you which I don't know if you still deal with clients, but let's just pretend like you're back into investigations and you do help clients, or you go to a private client's house to see if their place is haunted indeed. Do you feel like your addiction has prepared you to kind of look for the red flags within a client, or to know?
Yeah, definitely. It's, the old saying, you can't bullshit a bullshitter. And that's one of the true skills that was acquired through all that, was that kind of skill to pick out the good, the bad, those red flags, those infamous red flags. And being in addiction, you, just like you said, you know what to look for, you know what to spot, what to see, what to listen for during the interview. But I think it would help. Absolutely. It helped me. I think it would help anybody else. I mean, don't be afraid, like if you're coming out of addiction, to get into this field, because you're going to find that it's closer to home than you think.
For sure.
So you're in the right place. You're okay.
There's plenty of us here.
Yeah, there's many of us here.
Yeah.
Use the skills to your advantage. And I think, in a way, they may be more in tune as
Mm-hmm.
well, just
Yeah.
with common sense, because like we talked about, I don't think logically, we don't think logically, so forth. It's
Uh-uh.
tough.
Yeah.
So to have something like that, absolutely, I'm all for it.
I think we can
Yeah.
all agree that if you are a paranormal team and you take on clients, you do need to take at least a couple of classes or go to a few meetings just so you know what to look for when it comes to red flags. Because they may be saying, I'm seeing ghosts come out of the walls and this, and you get there and you're not getting anything, but you're picking up on red flags where addiction is present.
Mm-hmm.
You can instantly switch from a paranormal team to much like what we used to do, which is I don't want to trigger you. However, I just want to let you know that both of us are recovering addicts. We're seeing a couple of red flags that indicate that you may be using. If you are, you are. If you're not, you're not. But we're just throwing this out there that if that is kind of what's going on, we can help. We can stop this right now. And why don't you just sit and talk to us?
We had one family that a majority of them ended up going to rehab, and they bucked up a little bit when they found out that we would not be sending them all to the same place, because I had found several, and then Kay knew of several, and then I had reached out to several people, and I had them all a really good place to go, but none of them were together. None of the couples were going to be together, and they were not happy about it. And that was a actual client we got called to because they thought that they had a demon in their house, and we drove 4.5 hours
Oh,
to there. Yeah.
geez.
Yeah.
But it wasn't, and I talked to other investigators like, oh, that was a wasted trip. I'm like,
Yeah,
no,
but it
because
wasn't to
at the end
us.
of the night, 4 people decided to leave that night and go to rehab.
Mhm.
And from the
That's
last check-in, they were still sober.
Mhm.
We had one lady who thought she was being abducted by aliens because she
Yep.
was losing time. And it just so happened that she was getting high and accidentally taking medication that wasn't hers. And I do mean accidentally. She thought it was hers, but it was not. And that induced hallucinations, and then she would just black out and then wake up and,
there was a huge time lapse.
Yeah, that
And
makes sense.
she was terrified because she was convinced that she was losing time and being abducted, because she did believe in those things.
She was honest in the forefront that she was a user, because that's on our questionnaire. She was like, yes, I smoke weed and I do this. And I'm like,
but she was, and she wasn't really what I would consider the normal addict that we have went to and seen. I mean, she was smoking weed, but she was getting so high that she was taking somebody else's medication. And it was causing her to like really mess up with some life stuff. She was,
poor little fella.
Yeah.
But it's something that everybody needs to look into for sure.
I agree.
But we're coming to a close, and I know we're going to do a book giveaway, but I have 2 more questions for you.
Okay.
Just 2 more questions. When you're with your book, The Haunted Voice, that beautiful book right there. Let me uncover your name. That beautiful book. What was your favorite thing that you wrote about? Yours personally, what was your favorite part about writing it, or your favorite topic that you wrote in there?
Well, my favorite release was when I wrote about the prison, going to prison. My favorite chapter of writing was a chapter about Sherry, meeting Sherry.
Yeah.
That just lit everything else. That made everything else worth it.
Yeah.
Was writing how we met and how we, struggled and so forth. And yeah, I mean, that was probably my favorite part to write, was that part about her. But
she's such an awesome lady.
Oh my God.
God. When I said that everything happens for a reason, it's tough. It's tough. Divorce is tough. But man, did the universe set you up with her.
Yeah. She's a sweetheart. She's, there's so many different ways someone can be saved. She saved me in so many different ways that I was, and I still am just starting out with my life. I'm having to reboot once again And to have someone strong like that supports you no matter what, and a woman that supports someone that works all these hours, and like today, we spent an hour together. We went out to eat, for crying out loud. I haven't done that in I don't know how long.
That's awesome. It's
You
the
know,
small things though that
it's those tiny things. And to have someone in your life like that is so supportive makes all the difference. Makes all the difference.
Absolutely. I thought it was sweet when you wrote in there. I was like, oh, I didn't know that. It was like, what? I'm like, you're gonna have to read it because
yeah,
I didn't know Todd could be so sweet.
Yeah, that was near and dear to my heart, that chapter, because she did. She came in, swept me off my feet, really did. And is just one of the most supportive people that I've come across.
Yeah.
I mean, and someone that puts up with a lot of my bull. I mean, I do a lot of stupid shit.
Yeah,
that's a full-time job in itself, isn't it?
Oh my God. I've lost count of how much stupidity that I've done. And
we're going to have to bring her on with us, and the four of us are just going to have to talk about each other's shit. Like, does yours do this? Because mine does.
I do a lot of stupid shit too, Todd. It's okay. A lot.
Good. I don't feel so alone.
Kane does too.
I do too.
This is just like medically different. He chops.
Yeah,
I
just chop off fingers.
You're chopping off fingertips and
toes
and everything else. My
super gluing his body together every other day.
You're falling apart.
I really am. I'm only 32.
You had to think about
it. No, I'll be.
I'm 33.
Yeah, I'll be 30. I'll be 33.
You'll be 32.
I'll be 32.
Oh, to be young again. Oh man.
I can only remember mile markers. Like every fifth year, I can remember how old I am.
I don't think I'm old. I'm not. I don't.
My body.
I have been very unfair to my vehicle though. My maintenance lights were never checked until like the last
man. Oh, see. Yeah, we'll just go until the light comes on.
We're gonna go until we start like spewing stuff out of
preventive maintenance is out the window.
No, there was none of that.
What's that?
It's okay. It's taking Sherry 3 months to get her oil changed. I said, honey, it's time for a change on the oil change. Every 3,000 miles, you're supposed to get it done every 3 months or so. So yeah, I get it.
Yeah, so she was supposed to get maintenance.
I'm sitting here thinking, I got one vehicle out here that I've got to go do that too.
You've got to get the oil changed.
I'm going to hear it now because you said that, and he just
because
today, there's no sticker been put on that vehicle.
She was supposed to have maintenance on her body today. Supposed to go to the doctor and get a checkup.
No, that one of them was going to be super late.
It don't matter.
It does matter.
It does not matter. But what does Allisa do? Instead of going to get the maintenance done, we're going to set it out for another month. We'll come to you in a month. Like, all right. When something starts breaking or squeaking or leaking, don't cry to me.
It already does that. We got a tin like an oil can. We got several of them.
My final question for you, though, is going to be a fun one. We try to do it whenever we have a guest on. We haven't had a guest in a while because, we've been gone for a while. So we're going to ask you, when you are a ghost yourself, what is going to be your ghost outfit? What are you going to wear in the afterlife?
What is your afterlife outfit, Todd? You get to pick it all, bud.
What I want like a long black trench coat.
Oh, yes. Like the Undertaker old school
like the coat. Undertaker guy.
Yes.
The brim hat. Just for a little while.
Courtney said not a damn
and then I've always liked a suit and tie, a nice suit and tie, a nice suit. So it may be that too.
You gonna wear a hat or no hat?
No hat.
No hat.
No hat with the suit.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I might.
I could see you with like a 1920s gangster hat. Like what are they called? A fedora? No, not a fedora. The golfer hat things.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, like Peaky Blinders.
Oh, the horsemen, the jockey hats.
Jockey hats.
Yeah.
Jockey hats. Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I could see you rocking.
Rocking one of those out. Why not?
I love the trench coat. That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
I'm gonna
Something fun
probably
like
just
that.
be comfortable. I'll go in either athletic shorts and a cutoff shirt or some very scrunchy bottom sweatpants and an oversized hoodie.
If I get to pick it, I'm going as extra as it gets. Just because you'll get this, nobody else will. I'm going to look like the chick that's painted on the Mexican restaurant's wall, like the bright colored dress with the stuff that makes sounds and
You
like
are
all
so extra.
I want all the bright colors.
So
And,
you're
like,
gonna go Hispanic as opposed to First Nation with all the get up.
I don't get to do that in my ghost outfit. I would have to get fake ones.
All right, fair enough.
Let's be
Fair
realistic. We're being
Fair
real
enough.
now. I mean,
Fair enough. Fair enough.
you don't get to wear that in that afterlife. It doesn't go
Unfortunately
with you.
not.
Oh, all
But
right.
I can take the margarita waitress's outfit.
Oh my
That's what I
gosh.
can. And I'm taking it. I want that. I want her little tray thing and her pictures and those real
Well, then
heavy
I
glasses.
may be like Courtney and just go in my birthday suit so that everybody runs away from me.
If you take yourself to Wildwood, I bet that woman don't run from you.
Very
She
true.
might stick you in that bathtub.
No.
remember the ghost that fondled him?
That is another story for another time. We got 3 minutes.
And we got a book to give away.
Bossman, thank you so much for coming on tonight.
Oh man, it's been a blast.
I needed this. You know, we're gonna have to bring you back on because we talk too damn much, but
You name it. No, you guys are awesome.
tell everybody where they can find you and your book.
Oh, sure. It's real simple. You can find me around the station, WLTK-DB.com, or of course my website, thehauntedvoice.com or toddmichaelbates.com. Either one of those will get you to the same place. You can find the book on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Apple Books, and you can get signed copies there on my website as well. Just got a shipment in.
Oh,
So paperbacks are back in stock. So if you guys want some of those, you can get signed copies on my website, or the first person to answer the question that these two come up with, get a free copy tonight. It can be a number between 1 and 10. It could be any kind of question. This will be a signed copy.
we're gonna keep it easy tonight.
Let's make it easy.
Let's make it easy because I want to give that book away because somebody deserves that book. The first person to tell us what our child's name is gets Mr. Todd's book. What is our child's name?
No, it's a good one.
It
They would-
is.
Yeah, put it out there. You'll get a copy of the book, signed copy. Get the name out there. First person that does it gets the signed copy shipped to their door. I mean, the book's good too, you guys. It's a quick read. It was made to be a quick read, so
It just opened up the whole other avenue for you to continue to write.
it did. And the second one's in the works. What I want to do is a trilogy, the Haunted Voice trilogy. The second one is going to be called Life After.
Mhm.
And it is a lot more extensive than the first. And then the third one is going to be about the formation of the station and everything, and it's going to be called 3 Minutes to Live.
Oh, I love that.
That's
Yeah.
good.
So we're going to get those three, but it's time consuming. It's not something you just kind of whip up, and you got to do your thing, put it together, and all
Yeah.
that fun stuff. So
I don't know that I could do a book.
Close,
I would have to
Courtney. Close. We're gonna keep an eye on the comments after the show.
no
as
worries.
soon as somebody had I known, we would have done that earlier to give times. That was my bad.
Hey, we had to do some serious talk.
We do.
yeah, we did.
We
We
had
did
to
some
get
good
serious.
serious talk.
We had some
We did.
serious conversation.
But you got close, Courtney. Just not quite there.
I gotta go.
But
I
yeah,
gotta go.
she's got to go and take a shower because we're leaving tomorrow for another.
We're leaving
adventure.
in 4 hours.
Woo-hoo, you guys get some sleep.
We are. Thank you so much for coming on, Todd. I'm gonna see you right after the show, I'm sure. So.
Oh yeah.
Anyways, all right, guys, we're gonna close out the show for tonight. Everybody, give Todd some love. Give Todd some love. Give
Thank you,
Brianna some
everybody.
love. Love and light, everybody. May God bless you. May the gods be with you. We'll see you next Friday night on Twisted Ascensions. Take us on out, boss lady.
The truth is here and now on WLTK-DB Talk Radio at WLTK-DB.com.